Alright guys, this is a video that I have been hesitating to do, partially because of all the stuff that's been going on with the said pneumonic plague. Part of the reason is because a lot of people are getting a lot of conflicting information, and I wanted to make sure what I'm about to tell you is as accurate as I can. I have family in Moscow. My wife is Russian, and many of them are doctors and amongst other things. But anyway, we have a mutual acquaintance who is an internist in a hospital in Ukraine. I won't mention the hospital for obvious reasons. We had a long conversation. She, the doctor that is, indicated to us that the pneumonic plague that is going on, and they don't call it a pneumonic plague, they just call it, hyper or something pneumonia. It's a secondary disease that is brought on by a low immunity. It can be brought on from the influenza, but in this case, the doctor I spoke to, who's physically in Ukraine, who's physically working in the hospital, indicated that the pneumonic issue, the pneumonia that is going around, has more to do with the lack of public health than it does with the flu virus per se. What does that mean? Well, as Americans, we take for granted clean water, clean air, clean food, a sewer system that is underground and enclosed, a water purification and sewer and waste management system that not a lot of places have. One of them is the Ukraine. During the time of the Soviet Union had a very strong infrastructure and created most of the waste management systems that the Ukraine had at the turn of the 20th century into the 40s and 50s and on. That has not been the case in the last 20 years. Since the collapse of the Soviet Union and the independent state of the Ukraine has been having problems because they don't have really. It's corrupt. The government is corrupt, and the problem is that they're not getting clean water and clean sewage and so forth. And this is exacerbating the problem, and this is what's causing what looks like a outbreak of a pneumonia that's a bacterial format. Now, after saying all that, well, do not lay a sigh of relief, because the other thing that they noticed, this doctor noticed, was that it was the bacterial infection was incredibly resistant to antibiotics. So in one way, it's not a mutation of the flu virus, like Doc said. Saying that a virus is a bacterial infection is like saying that a Winnebago is a banana. They're two different animals, and they both factor into different ways. What makes this bacterial infection dangerous is it's highly contagious. It's probably more contagious in the Ukraine. It's not as bad in Russia and Moscow. They've not had a serious problem because their public health system is very similar to ours, and they have a lower rate. So the spread rate is basically based on a situation of cleanliness. Once you get it, though, apparently erythromycin and Cipro and the rest are not responding. It's not responding well to it. Now, I'm not denying that Baxter may have done something or whatever. I'm not into that. I'm just quoting the facts. The reason why I held back making this video is because I've heard everything from the flu is mutated into this, whatever, the Ukraine, it's just spreading like wildfire, assuming that that the Ukraine looks exactly like Minnesota. It doesn't. On a scale of 1 to 10 in cleanliness, Minnesota falls around 9.5, and most of the Ukraine is around a 5. Okay? And in other countries like Moldova, forget it, it's like around a 2 in far as cleanliness is concerned. If you have a place where you have septic systems that don't work, water's not running on a regular basis, you're not bathing on a regular basis, and the water that you're bathing with may be easily infected by a bacteria, and you put it on your body or you drink it, it's going to spread faster. Basically, what I wanted, the reason why I'm telling you all this is because practice of cleanliness is really what's going to keep both the virus, the influenza virus, and the bacterial infection, which is the pneumonia, the pneumonic bacterial infection, at bay for everyone. Once it gets into you, obviously the normal methods of antibiotics are not working. So my suggestion to everyone is to do what you should always do. Wash your hands. Wash your face. Instead of showering once a day, shower 3 times a day. Try to keep the level of contact and dirt in your home, on yourself, and on your children and family at a minimum. That will cut down the possibility of exposure, and it will cut down the possibility of you catching something. Don't forget, most of the world is not as clean as we are. Not because they don't want to be, but because the facilities are not there. And we assume that we're going to be overrun by this virus and a bacterial infection at the same time. And really what slowed down the progression of both the influenza virus last year and this year, and the progression of this pneumonic, I hate to use the word plague because it's a bacterial infection. It's not being run by rats. It's just being run by lack of cleanliness. So both of these things were slowed down in the United States because we have a higher standard of cleanliness. Socially speaking, we don't hang around people who smell, and that is a good practice, because those people, the reason why they don't smell right is because they're not cleaning themselves on a regular basis. So just going that extra mile and washing your hands on a regular basis, keeping yourself clean, washing your hands before you eat, washing your hands after you eat and after you prepare food, and bathing before you go to bed and bathing when you get out of bed will probably limit the amount of the chances, or limit the chance that you're going to get either. Now, I'm not saying that this is not going to spread, but I think where it's going to spread is going to be a place or places where the public health issues are not as well. And the Ukraine, Moldova, parts of Belarus, and into African countries maybe, depending on where they're located, and some of the outlying areas in Asia, is a very good possibility. But it's not something that is going to kill you without you not doing something, and that is washing. So I just wanted to throw that out. I'm going to throw Doc's video up that made me make my phone call. All right, guys. Peace.